The Maryland Made podcast provides timely, relevant, and practical information to empower student athletes to explore their potentials and purpose with their passions. We facilitate an inclusive environment for student athletes to refine their leadership, explore professional possibilities, and enact change in their communities. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Maryland Made podcast. I'm your host, Daeze, the Program Director for Student Athlete Career Development. Today, we'll be discussing an emerging hot topic, entrepreneurship. Have you ever thought about what it takes to start your own business, understanding the motives behind why people start? Then you've come to the right place. Joining me today is entrepreneur, CEO of Leader Breeders, TA9 Apparel, TA9 Vending, Morgan State Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, and author, Tiny Adams. Tiny,
Thank
thank
you
you
for
so much.
having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. We've known each other for a little while now, since 2019, playing pickup basketball at Morgan State. You're not originally from Baltimore, but you have definitely made Baltimore home with all the initiatives and programs and the impact that you've left in the city. Could you provide our listeners a little bit more of your background and just tell us about yourself?
For sure, for sure. So first of all, good morning. I appreciate you having me on this podcast. I'm excited to be here and share my story a little bit. So I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. I got to Baltimore by way of a basketball scholarship to Morgan State University. I attended Morgan 2006 to 2010. Then I went on to play professionally overseas. And then in 2017, when my body started talking to me about, a little bit of retirement, I decided to come back to Baltimore instead of New York. Um, Part of that decision was, of course, New York is crazy expensive. But the other part is kind of what you said, like Baltimore has been my second home. I kind of grew up here. So I wanted to come back and kind of pour into this community and just really make my life here. So I ended up going to get my master's at Morgan in 2017, pursued a bit of a coaching career on the men's side. And now I'm just doing everything I can for my nonprofit organization.
Love that. Yeah, we definitely love having you in Baltimore too. People used to be like, Tiny. I'm like, no, who is Tiny? Then literally you use Tiny as your name, but
Mm-hmm,
heart of a
mm-hmm,
beast, heart of a beast.
for sure.
So can you tell us a little bit more too, just about like your professional experience? Where overseas did you play? Kind of like a brief overview of like Leader Breeders and some of the other events that you host here in Baltimore as well.
So it's crazy because one of the reasons I do a lot of what I do is because you're just so ignorant coming out of college. So I didn't know how to pick an agent. I ended up signing with an agent who wasn't certified. And granted, she was actually pretty good, but because she was so good and so like she was on her stuff that she kind of annoyed a lot of like the WNBA GMs, overseas GMs. So they started to look her up and they like, this woman isn't even certified. Like, why are we even talking to her type of thing? And that kind of just set me all the way back. So I actually started out being my own agent for the first like 5 years of my career. So I started out in Puerto Rico. That's more so of a summer league. And it's just kind of like to get your feet wet, to kind of get an understanding of what professional basketball, entails. From there, I went on to Portugal. I did Portugal for 2 years. Then after that, I went to Bosnia, I went to Bulgaria, and after Bulgaria, I realized that I wouldn't be able to get into the top leagues unless I had a good agent to represent me. So I ended up signing for 2 Points Agency. They're out of Italy. And actually, later down the line, I began scouting and working for them. But after that, after Bulgaria, I went to Sweden. I went to Czech Republic, Chile. And then I went to Poland, Switzerland, Romania, Greece, I think that's it. So I had a good run. One thing I'll say is, yes, I'm tiny. So I kind of took advantage. Like I didn't eat right. I didn't stretch. I didn't drink water. And it kind of caught up to me. So I was kind of forced to retire because my body started to talk to me. One of the things I noticed when I was over there was like, I had teammates who were like 40 and they still were starters. They still were able to play 35 minutes. And that was kind of a result of their diet and them taking care of their body and thinking longevity. So for the athletes listening, take care of your body. Don't abuse it like me. I was in love with Big Mac meals and just not stretching and just playing 40 minutes a game and everything like that. So it didn't work out for me. But after playing in Greece, I kind of realized that my body wouldn't hold up for the way that I took the game as serious as I did. I was working out 2 and 3 times a day. It never took more than 2 days off. So once I started to feel like I wouldn't be able to uphold that, it was like, let me step away. I never wanted to be one of those washed up players who was like trying to hold on to the very end. I was like, let me get out while I'm on top and start to do other things. I came back 17, decided to get my master's in journalism because at that point I had already written a book and did a documentary, but I just did it off of YouTube University. Like I didn't really learn the actual steps. So I wanted to actually learn how to be a real journalist, how to produce quality stuff and things of that nature. And Morgan looked out for me. They actually allowed me to be a grad assistant in the athletic department. So they actually created a position for me to go to school free, but also get paid. And that was just kind of a result of, my time there and the impression I made on the staffs and the faculty and things of that nature. And it's crazy because that athletic director wasn't the athletic director that was there when, I was there. He just said like he had an open position for academic advisor, a position I had no business applying for. And I didn't know, but so many people were knocking on his door like, hey, man, you need to hire Tiny. Like, she needs to come back. She can mentor the student athletes. And also, I always was around. So before I went overseas, I would spend like 2 weeks at Morgan. Graduation time, I would come back because I still kept in touch with a lot of the players and things of that nature. So for me, when it was time to figure it out, I had so many people speaking on my behalf that, he ultimately created that position. So in between going to grad school, that's when I kind of developed the coaching bug. So I never really wanted to coach, but I started to work with some high school boys and I was like, you know what? Let me kind of go through with this. So for me, I've always been a part of working with Baltimore's youth. So even when I got to Morgan, we had a mentor program we were a part of. We did camps. We did a whole bunch of stuff that kind of introduced me to the youth. And also my bachelor's was in K to 12 phys ed. So I was teaching, I was certified. So I had the student teach. So I was able to see a lot of Baltimore's youth in a lot of different capacities. And for me, I just kind of fell in love with helping them. So a little bit at the beginning of the pandemic, everything was kind of shut down. I had no interactions with the youth. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, I wish there was somewhere that, I owned a space that I can just have some of these kids come through and just get their mind off things and be able to just be around people. Granted, everything was supposed to be shut down, but in my head, I'm like, it's my space. I own it. I probably was going to sneak and open it up or whatever. So through that thought process, I go out just because like, we were locked up for a while. So sometimes every now and then I just go out and drive. And, I did run into a few squeegee boys and a few guys at the gas stations. And a lot of times,
For people who don't know what a squeegee boy is, what's a squeegee boy?
so the squeegee boys are 99% like they're male. I haven't seen a female squeegee boy.
Neither
Have
have
you
I.
ever? So I haven't a squeegee person, I should say, but I feel like there's probably a few women out there. But nonetheless, they're at most red lights of busy intersections where they can basically they want to clean your windows in exchange for money. So they're at the lights with the windshield wipers and some Windex trying to clean your windows for money. There's gas station guys who they hang around a gas station and offer to pump your gas also in exchange for money. So what I do on a daily basis, I usually have singles in my glove compartment. So whether I see the squeegee boy or the homeless, whoever I see first, they typically get those singles. So during that particular time, I kind of talk to them because, like I said, I'm thinking like, dang, like how can I help these guys? So one of them, he's like, I got a baby on the way, but he's 16. Another one is like, I'm trying to figure out the process to get my GED, but I feel like it's going to cost something. So I'm trying to just get me a little bit of cushion of money so that I can cover that. There's other ones, and I actually have a video. He's like, yo, I want my own car wash. So I'm figuring if I could learn how to do the dirty work now, it'll help me when I eventually start that. You know what I'm saying? So like just hearing all of that, I'm wishing that I could say, hey, look, yo, y'all come down to the center. Let's figure it out. Let's figure out the career path. I got some people I can connect you with. So that's the kind of like mind frame I'm in. So I already had a nonprofit in New York. So it wasn't that hard of a transition to start to get Leader Breeders going. It took a while for me to come up with the name. I can't even tell you how, but after like a month or so of playing around, like it came, and I think the name is perfect. But we incorporated Leader Breeders in August of 2020. We've been operating for 3 years. The only issue was that because I was coaching men's basketball at Loyola, I had to do everything around my basketball schedule. Because for those that don't know, being a college basketball coach is very time consuming and time demanding, and it's hard for me to host events and do things in the midst of basketball season. So this past April, I actually stepped away because I felt like my purpose was more so to help the youth on a larger scale. Like as a coach, there are NCAA rules of compliance that state like, it's hard for you to even associate with anybody 12 and up because it can be looked at as recruiting. So for me, I made the tough decision to leave my then dream job to pursue this. So since April, we've been able to do so many different things for the community and the youth. Now we have consistent programming. So now we're in a position where we can apply for grants. We're getting definitely, a lot of financial support, a lot of community partnerships. So now we're kind of just scaling up. Even though we've been around for 3 years, this is like the first 6 months where we've had like things happening as often as we have. So it's been great. I mean, it's a little bit different from, the LLCs I own and the things that I've done prior to this, but I'm the type of person where, I'm going to actually seek out mentorship. I'm going to actually do webinars and get the knowledge to make sure that, we're doing what we need to do. Because especially in a nonprofit space, you don't want the IRS coming for you because, you're doing things the wrong way. So it's been a good journey, though. We on the way up to some great things. And, I can honestly feel the impact through some of the parents, some of the kids that come to multiple events and like they're excited to be around. So it's been great. It's been great. I can't complain at all in that space.
I love it. Yeah, I think that what I've seen, I haven't been able to actually physically been a part of because I've been gone, but what I've seen is definitely something that a lot of people are invested in. They want to help support, be a part of the cause that you have. And I think with your perspective and, not being from Baltimore, but Baltimore becoming a second home, and then you really taking the time to kind of like think about and like interact with like, hey, these are the types of people that I'm trying to help. These are the type of people who need a little bit more guidance and assistance. I think that really helped mainstream and kind of like centralize your motives on starting Leader Breeders and becoming an entrepreneur in that aspect. And so just kind of moving from that, like, how did you know that that business was something that you wanted to do outside of just, engaging with the community, or was the community just a really big part of that?
So I would say it's a combination of both. Like I'm thinking back to when I started like the LLCs, and honestly, I started TA9 Apparel because of my New York community. Like they made me start it. Like I wrote the book, so I was promoting the book. And then in order to promote the book, I was like, okay, let me shoot some clips to add to Instagram to get people excited about buying the book. And I went on customink.com and got like 3 t-shirts printed with my logo on it. And instead of everybody asking about the book, they start asking about the shirt.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's like, yo, can we get a shirt? Can we get a shirt? I'm like, I don't have shirts. I got books. Like, I want y'all to buy the books. Like, focus on the books. You know what I'm saying? So, but after like 50, 100 people, it's like, okay, like, let me get these people the shirts. And it's like, all right, well, I'm going to do a deal. So you buy a shirt, then you get a discount on the book, but you're going to get the books because this is the main focus here. You know what I'm saying? So after that first round of shirts, like literally the whole city just supported. So now I'm like, well, I have to actually create an LLC because I got to legitimize this, So, fast forward into Leader Breeders, I always did my own free clinics. I did free events for the youth whenever I would come back in the summer and stuff. And I always had a great turnout. And then also even looking at that position I got with Morgan, like they called it an academic mentor. And he wanted me to basically mentor and guide the student athletes both in the classroom. And he was like, and then, end of the day, I don't mind if you work them out and help them in other ways. So I feel like, because of my involvement, at that time I was working at Poly, I was kind of helping around Morgan. I felt like it was just something that, needed to happen. It was like, instead of me doing all these one-off events, like, because I also did like homeless jobs and stuff like that, where people were supporting. It's like, all right, well, let me kind of put this under one umbrella. Let me kind of remove myself out of it and put this organization around it. So now, like we do the Play for Trey event, which is in memory of Tracy Carrington. But the first three were under just Tiny doing it. Now the last two have been under Leader Breeders. You know what I'm saying? So now it just allowed me to kind of put all of my community service and all of my initiatives under one umbrella, and also just kind of add more pieces to it. Because, we have the after school programs, we have the mentor programs. We're starting to do more in regards to STEM. We did the basketball clinics, we did the basketball tournaments, we're expanding to volleyball, baseball. So now it allows me to do things on a larger scale. But also what you'll notice is when you look at grants and things of that nature, people want to write off what they have to do. And if it's just under Tiny Adams, they can't write that off. If it's
Yeah.
Leader Breeders, then I can support and write it off and everything's all good. Grants, they don't typically, like, there are some business grants, but over 70% of grants are for tax exempt nonprofit organization. And it specifically say we do not give to individuals. So it just kind of made more sense because of everything I was doing. And when I figured out exactly, our ultimate goal is to open up our own youth development center and also have them in different parts of the city. So with that in mind, it's like, for us to really reach that goal, it makes more sense to do it as a nonprofit, as opposed to just Tiny. Because when they see the Leader Breeders logo, they're going to think me anyway. I'm the CEO, I'm the founder. So it just kind of made more sense based off of the community support I had already gathered and built, and just, trying to legitimize things, as I mentioned, because it's important to have everything organized and structured. Like, you got to build a solid foundation, whether you're starting a new LLC or a nonprofit. Because also when I'm going to these meetings and I'm meeting with these big corporations, the first things they're going to ask for is, your articles of incorporation, how long you've been in business, your financial statement. So if you're not legitimate, you won't have any of that. And then those conversations are over quickly. So in regards to, it just made more sense to kind of just create the nonprofit and kind of build under that umbrella.
Yeah, definitely. I think, having a game plan, understanding what you need in order to execute that game plan are definitely big motivating factors. And there are a lot of challenges that come with it that I think you've highlighted, and, ways to overcome those challenges, and the opening your mind and speaking outside of the box in all those different ways. What do you think is the most rewarding part, though, of being an entrepreneur in this business?
So I tell you, so like I said, we just started to establish consistent programs and events. And I had one kid. It's crazy because it just all kind of became full circle. But we had this one kid. He was in our basketball clinic. He was in our tournament. He participated in another event. But this whole time, his coach had been bringing him. So his football coach brings him, and then we do our back to school giveaway, and his grandma comes. So his grandma comes with him and like four of his other cousins. And she like, oh, so you Coach Tiny, you the Coach Tiny I've been hearing about. And she just expressed so much gratitude for, we only did about 4 events that he was able to attend during the weekends. And she was like, just thank you so much for, what you've been doing with my grandson. He raves about Leader Breeders. He really enjoys the events. Just the little stuff like that. It kind of just warms your heart, but it also lets you know and reassures you that, like, you're making an impact. Like, I didn't even know about his grandmother. And also for me, I always think it's like surreal when parents tell me that their kids are talking about me or Leader Breeders, because also between the age of like 10 and 16, nobody's really talking to their parents. So it's like when you are talking to your parents, you're talking about me and Leader Breeders, like that just kind of like, makes me feel like, all right, we're doing what we're supposed to do. And then we fast forward, we have an after school program at Hazelwood, and also I'm coaching their middle school team, and he goes to that school. So now it's like, how does that even happen? You know what I'm saying? So it's like now we're able to have hands on him throughout the year. And also he's a part of another program, and I just spoke to their founder, and he's telling me that, like, this is his plan. We're trying to figure out how we can make sure that, he's guided, because when he's not active in either one of our programs, he doesn't make the right decision every time. So a lot of times what we're doing now is we incorporate life skills, wellness into everything we do. So we're trying to help them understand, like, decision making is big, communication is big, and just really trying to wrap their heads around what it's going to take to be successful. So, like, for me, the most rewarding thing is when we're able to finally, like, connect and form that consistency with the youth and their families, to where, like, they're trusting us with their kids. They're showing up for everything. They're excited, they're asking for more. And for me, it just reassures you that, you've been doing the right stuff, because the it's not just, you have to provide quality in whatever you do. For me, I think a lot of people get into entrepreneurship, and like you said, they don't have a plan. They don't understand the essence of customer service. Those are some of the things that are very key to basically, providing a quality service. Like, for me, my biggest marketing tool is word of mouth. Like, because if somebody says, yo, Daeze, like, you need to do this, like Tiny and them are doing it great, you're gonna take heed to it, where it's like, like, my friend is not gonna send me to something that hasn't been good to them, or is not a quality product. Same thing like with anything. Like, if the word of mouth is kind of, in my opinion, the best form of marketing, because you're basically a testimony of using that product or service, which is a little bit different than, social media marketing, email marketing, because there's no relationship in there. So for me, it's like, that's one of the most important things, is just providing quality. We're new, but everything we've done, is structured. It looks great. We may not have the most resources financially, but you wouldn't be able to tell. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of the most rewarding part, though, is like hearing those unsolicited testimonies from parents and kids, that kind of just let you know that, you guys are doing the right things.
Yeah, that's beautiful, because there's no better feeling, like you said, of having somebody just come to you and be like, yo, this has been great. This is keeping me on the right path. Parents are happy that their kids are enjoying something outside of, just being outside. Like, we get it. I mean, you've been in Baltimore probably as long as you lived in New York now at this point. So it's just like the tale of the two cities. Like, you get caught up in them things really easily. So to kind of have that in-city getaway, where it's like you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting the fun, you're getting the community, you're getting the education, you're getting the resources, you're getting all the things that you thought you couldn't get in your home city. So it's just like, that's
Yeah. And for me, like, honestly, a lot of what we do, I'm just recreating the experiences that I've been through.
yep.
So I grew up in the rec center. So when we do, like, ultimately get out, space, it's gonna be called the rec. Like, we operating out of a community center now. I went to after school programs. I was a part of a mentor program, the one, both as a mentee and a mentor. So I'm just trying to recreate the experiences that I've been through, because I feel like they've contributed to my success. So the biggest thing with us is, we're focused totally on youth development, but it doesn't have to be through basketball. So that's why we're starting to offer everything. So we're doing the STEM, we're going to do volleyball, we're going to do baseball. We're partnering them up with different mentors to get exposed to different things, because I personally feel there's so much talent in Baltimore. And of course, beyond Maryland, DMV, whatever the case may be, but Baltimore specifically, like, there's just a lack of the exposure piece. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, if they don't see it, then they're not necessarily, knowledgeable of what they can do. Like, they see, Tank, so they think boxing, but I may not be good in boxing. They see Mello, so they think basketball, but they don't see everything else. They don't know that you might not be good in basketball, but you can be a photographer, you can be a coach, you can be a trainer, you can be a statistician, like, you can do analytics. Like, they don't know those different angles and avenues where they can kind of figure out what they're passionate about. So that's kind of what we want to do, in a sense, is just try everything. Like, we're going to provide the programming, and we're also going to do some stuff in the academic enrichment side, because, a lot of them aren't on grade level. Because, like, I substitute teach also. And, when I'm in a 7th grade class and, they're asking me how to spell certain things, and when I pick on them to read, there's issues, we want to be able to support them in those ways as well. So for me, I want to do our part in just exposing them to different things. Like when we get that space, like we want to have a recording studio, computer lab, a creative space, like maybe they're in the fashion, who knows? But we want to be able to kind of, tailor whatever it is they're interested in and help them figure out a career path to it. But I think the biggest thing is the exposure piece. Like we've seen basketball, so that was something that we gravitated towards. Maybe we would have did some ballet or something. Who knows? But figured out what we were passionate about. So I just want to give them that same opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. I understand that because exposure is definitely key. If you don't
Mm-hmm.
know it exists, you won't know that that's something that you could be interested in. And so
Right.
I love the fact that, basketball might have been the starting ground, but it's not the end all be all because it's so
Right.
many other things that students and these young children and the youth are like, you know what? You're right. I might be an artist. I might be really good in the STEM field and be a doctor or, an engineer or whatever the case may be. I might be good with numbers. So I definitely
Mm-hmm.
love that as, being a service that y'all offer and a motivating factor in why you all do what you do. And I think kind of like transitioning into like the steps on how you became an entrepreneur. I know you hit on that a lot, but what are the steps that you would give to anybody who's interested in becoming an entrepreneur?
So in my lifetime, prior to like the last 5 years, the biggest like downfall for me was I didn't have mentors. I think mentorship is one of the key factors to being successful in anything, not just being an entrepreneur, but for me, I learned a lot of what I've learned by making mistakes. So I had to go through the heartbreaks and pick myself back up. But if I just had somebody that can give me the cheat code or just steer me in the right direction, I would have got to my goals a little bit quicker. Now, granted, I don't regret it because I learned lessons that I can now share. That's actually what my book is about. Just, look, tiny setbacks, major comebacks. Like, yo, look, these are the things and the mistakes I made. This is what you watch out for. My experience may not be your experience, but at least you can kind of like get an idea of what to expect. So I
Mm-hmm.
think when it comes to, once you figure out what kind of business or corporation or nonprofit, seek out people who have done the things that you want to do. Because they can tell you why they were successful and they can tell you why they failed. And then that can kind of help you figure out, your blueprint. And that's the next step. Like you got to really plan. You can't just half-ass this. You can't just wake up one day and say, "Oh, I'm starting a business." Like because I think statistically, businesses fail in the first 90 days. So if you're not prepared for those first 3 months, you're gonna have a failing business. And depending on how much money you invest in that business, you're gonna be in the hole. Like it also takes about a year to get in the green, to be honest, which means that all of the investments it take because you got everything from like the corporation fees, just creating that business. There's filing fees, if you want to get a logo done, there are so many, investments you have to make before you can even open that business. So you're starting off in the hole right out the gate. So you need to have a plan that's going to not only get you out of the hole, but be able to sustain that business. So for me, definitely seek mentorship so that you can figure out what your plan needs to be, what things you need to kind of put in perspective and worry about. Even the people you need to add to your team, because one of the biggest mistakes we all make is we try to do everything ourselves. And you could probably be good at it for a little while, but if your business is as successful as you want it to be, you're going to need help. You're going to need experts in certain industries that you're not an expert in. Like I'm not an accountant. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not a lawyer to go through the contracts and stuff like that. Like you need to figure out, who you can lean on for guidance, what your plan looks like, also what type of team you need to build around yourself. Like maybe you're not good at social media. Maybe you don't want to be the face of the company. You know what I'm saying? Like those are all things to consider, but you need a plan and you need to have like a strategic plan because if not, then it's just gonna go all downhill from there. And like I spoke about earlier, I think one of the biggest things that are failing people is the customer service aspect. And I think what contributes to that is it's the why. Like, why do you want this business? Like, a lot of times I see people fail because they just want to make money. So, my first brand wasn't a power brand. I've helped a lot of other people start their own, but their why wasn't the same as mine. Their why was like, I just want to make bread. So that's leading them to provide poor customer service because they're just thinking about bread. So it's like, all right, I'm gonna sell this shirt for $100 because I just want to make money. But people know that Gildan shirt costs $3 and they're not about to give you $97 worth of profit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to think, would you buy that shirt for $100? Like, you got to kind of consider those factors when you're, a business person. Those are some of the things that I think are key, but the biggest two are planning and getting a mentor in that field, or even a mentor that maybe they don't own the same type of business, but they own a business. Because ultimately, like, even in the basketball world, like, we all go through the same stuff. And it's like the thing with that is I always encourage people to share their testimonies, because like, if I'm hearing like, you know what, like Daisy did it, so I can do it. It's not the end of the world. Like, dang, I ain't know Tiny went through that too. She got through it, so I could too. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Yeah, it builds that
yeah, like
camaraderie.
sometimes we just sometimes need that reassurance. Like 8 times out of 10, and you can check the stats on that. Like, we know what we have to do,
Yeah.
but there's always that little bit of fear or that unsureness. But now, if I can look over there, like, yo, all right, like I just spoke to Daisy. She told me she went through the same thing when she started her business. Bet. So, this is what she had to look out for. I'm gonna look out for that. But, she's letting me know that I'm right on the same path. So, like, she did it, then chances are I could do it. But if, like we just spoke about, like, if you don't have the exposure to see it, then you're always going like live in your head and doubt it. Like, I'm a Sag, so we overthink a lot. So it's like,
He's tiny.
you know what I'm saying? Like, we overthink a lot. So I know it's like, unless I'm able to see like an actual example of somebody being successful in something I'm doing, I'm probably going to doubt it for a little bit until I find like a foolproof plan. So, with mentorship, like, you can, don't be afraid to reach out to people. Like, there are a lot of people that want to help others. There are some that don't. Like, don't even pay attention to that. But like, send an email, like, get your 1,000 of those, like, chase it. Like, you know what I'm saying? But you gotta make sure you got a foolproof plan of whatever it is you want to do. And that can be both on the court, that can be in the business world. But my biggest thing is like, you gotta always have a plan. Like, plan A to Z is how I operate, like, because it almost always is going to go wrong. It's inevitable.
Yeah, that's fact.
So with a plan, it's like, all right, you can kind of see what didn't go right and get back to the drawing board. If you don't have a plan, you don't have nothing to, compare it to.
No
You just all
structure.
need, you're just only looking at the L, and it's like, nah, like, it's a reason. You know what I'm saying? So that would be my advice, like mentorship and a plan.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think, mentorship in anything is really essential because at the end of the day, you got to where you are because of mentorship, whether it was legitimate mentorship or your family or coaches who looked after you. You got to where you got to because of somebody cared enough to give more to you. And then, planning, you got to think about it. Like, we like to live in the moment. It's important to live in the moment, but you got to plan for the future. You don't want to plan too much that you miss out on the beauty of life that's in front of you. But you got to plan enough to, it's like, you know what, this is the track that I want to go on. This is the way that I want to, where I want to be, where I see myself in the next 5 years. And then just understand that nothing is linear too. So it's just like, I'm going to get there. I might not get there the way that I initially anticipated getting there, but we're going to get there one way or the other. I definitely think that you hit on some really good things, especially about the customer service skills, which, in a lot of different industries, I'm not going to call out just the hair girlies or the lash girlies, but
It's
those
tough.
are some industries that, the customer service isn't,
Yeah.
it's
It's
not,
non-existent.
yeah, it's not where it needs to be. But just on that, like as an entrepreneur, what do you think are some of the best soft skills? So if you could give me 3 soft skills that you think every entrepreneur should have, what would you say those top 3 are to be a good entrepreneur?
I think like you gotta have like an understanding of just what people want. What are they looking for? Why do they want to support you? Hold on a second. My mom calling me. Hey, am I still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Like just talking about customer service, you know, we want to support Black as much as possible. We want to support our friends. We want to support new businesses. Like and when you're missing that customer service piece, it's hard because now, you know, first impressions are everything. And like I said, word of mouth is crazy. So like it can go the good way for you or it can go bad. Like, yo, we can't support this no more. Like my food was cold or she didn't show up for an appointment. So I think the first soft skill, and it sounds probably like cliche, but you gotta put yourself in that, you know, consumer
Mm-hmm.
position. Like, you know, you are ultimately a consumer in other ways. So you got to think about how would I feel in this position? You know what I'm saying? What makes sense? Um, I think being able to problem solve because it always is gonna go wrong. You can plan the biggest like event, you can plan the biggest soft launch, whatever the case may be, and there's at least 3 things that's gonna go wrong. You know, the food is wrong, somebody's showing up late, but you got to be able to problem solve on the fly because you can't let that like mess up your whole day, your whole event, your whole launch. So definitely problem solve, definitely just have that consideration of the customer. And then the last one, I would just say you gotta have the knowledge of your field and that business and that industry. So even down to like, you know, setting your prices or the trends of that business or what's hot in that business right now, that can help you figure out how you want to move. Like when I had the brand, I was against it for a while. I didn't want to do dad hats because I don't wear hats. I feel like my head is shaped weird, so I don't wear hats. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I struggle between straddling the line of like what I want and
Mm.
what the customers want. So for a long time, I didn't do dad hats, and then I did like a one of one for a friend, and I was like, dang, that do look kind of tough. So it was like for me, I wanted to go against it because that was a wave. Everybody had dad hats with their logo on it. But you know, for me, all right, I did it, but I didn't just do the regular ones. Like I had the distressed, I had denim, I had different ones that can also still separate me from the rest of the apparel brands and stuff like that. But you know, like I said, like I knew that was a trend. I just didn't want to do it. But
Yeah.
ultimately, you know, you got to make those decisions where like, nah, they moving, like you got multiple customers asking for it. So, you know, I didn't buy them in crazy bulk, but I bought enough to, you know, fulfill, you know, my supportive customers. You know, even in a nonprofit space, just understanding the trends of what people are doing. So like everybody does back to school giveaways. So now I'm trying to figure out how can we kind of distinguish ourselves a little bit differently. So, you know, this year we did, you know, we had different resources where we had a table for registered voters to sign up. I mean, to sign up to become a registered voter. We had the Baltimore Peace Mobile. We had different resources for families. So it was like, it's not just going to be come and get these supplies, but you also were able to get food and also get some resources for your family.
Y'all
You
did
know,
haircuts
next
this
year,
year too, right?
say it again.
Y'all did haircuts this year too?
That was for the Christmas drive that we
Okay.
did. So
Mm.
that one, like we had everything from refugees to Coppin Academy students that
Mm.
that showed up. So we did Santa, we did toys, we did clothes, we did sneakers, we did the haircuts, we did gingerbread house making. Like, you know, for me, like I just want to kind of, you know, set us apart a little bit. So in order to do that, I need to know like what's going on in this field, what are people doing, And that's going to be important because you don't want to be out the loop and kind of just randomly doing things. Now it's important, like, be innovative, do the things you want to do, but also have an understanding of how successful it can or can't be. Because you can lose money. Like, I'll be honest with you, we did a brunch fundraiser, and it was tough because
It
it was
rained that
raining.
day.
It
Yeah.
rained that day. So
Mhm.
it's like, do we bring everything inside? Do we still keep it half and half? And we honestly lost money that day, but at the same time, like, we still had 100 people show up. We still did well. We just didn't do as well as we wanted to. But
Mhm.
maybe we could have brought the whole thing inside, but it was just like, we had the great decorations outside. And granted, the last 2 hours, the sun came out, it was cool, it was lit, but also that kind of deterred people from coming because of the rain, because it was raining crazy. So
Mhm.
it was like, yo, nah, we ain't going. You know what I mean? But it's like just having that knowledge, prior. It probably would have been best to just say, yo, all inside, and maybe extend it a couple of hours or whatever the case may be. But those are things that you learn, as you're doing it. But like on the fly, like so much stuff went wrong that day, nobody could tell. Like the
Mhm.
food was late, you know what I'm saying? And that was another thing of me supporting a new catering company, and they didn't deliver. So, for me, I'm not gonna like bad talk their business, but if somebody asks me, I'm not gonna lie also. You know what I'm saying? So those things went wrong, but we were able to kind of pivot, and keep everybody, in a good mood. We had the mimosas flowing and all that good stuff. But you gotta have that knowledge so that you can be able to operate. But yeah, I would say the customer service piece, problem solving, and just the knowledge of your industry or that field of business you're in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, I wasn't here, but I saw the videos, I saw the pictures, I saw everybody enjoying themselves, regardless of the fact. And, you're right. At the end of the day, I think a beautiful thing about when you put on a program or when you put on an event, nobody knows the flow of what's supposed to happen but the people behind the scenes. So as long
Right.
as you stay cool, calm, and collected, nobody's gonna know that,
For
hey, the
sure.
delivery was late or this was supposed to be set up this way, and you just
Right.
kind of got to roll with the punches in that moment and
Yeah.
just keep that
Yeah. And I would say definitely another thing to like note is to like give yourself grace. Like, because I'm one of those people, I'm a tough critic on myself. So all of those events, I'd be like, oh, I hated it. It didn't go well. And then, I'm asking everybody, they're like, yo, we loved it. We had a blast. We coming to the next one. So it's like you gotta kind of balance like being hard on yourself and holding yourself accountable and setting that bar high. But I've been really making a conscious effort to celebrate the small wins to, anything I'm doing. So that's something that coaching kind of taught me, because it was like you could be in coaching where y'all lose three in a row and it's like this dark cloud over your head. But the kids you've been working with for the last 3 months finally like got to play right and deliver. So it's like, celebrate that as opposed to like being down on yourself because y'all lost three in a row. So, within the entrepreneurship, you got to give yourself some grace because you deal with so much. You wear so many hats. You have to be aware of so many different things. So, try not to just focus on the things that go wrong. Celebrate and kind of use the good things that go well, as your motivation to keep going. Because, like I said, it's inevitable. It's almost gonna always go wrong. But you just hope that you're getting it right more than wrong, and just kind of build off of that.
for sure. I definitely think you highlighted and talked about a lot of some of the challenges that you face, some of the moments of adversity, the importance of having a good team, So I really feel like we hit on like a lot of the motivations and some of the steps into becoming, because you hit on like fears, you hit on the doubts, how they creep up, and you have to just kind of keep yourself going. And I think that having a good team around you helps you kind of like alleviate all of that. They're like, nah, like Tiny, you got it. Like you doing good. Like the community's here, getting that impact from the community, the students, the youth that you're servicing, their families is like, nah, like all that fear is just, self-inflicted. And it's just important to have good people around you who are like, hey, nah, you doing your thing. That's why I was like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know I haven't been in Baltimore and over 10 years. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
for me to now be in this space and to be able to be like, you know what, I haven't been home for no events, I haven't been able to do nothing, but this is how I can support. It's just kind of like, you have to have people, like you said, you have to have people around you who are like, you know what, I believe in this, I love the work that you're doing. And so like, this is my version of support too. It's just like, I love what you're doing. It's needed in the city. I wish that we had more tailored stuff like that. Cause like you, I grew up in, rec centers, the PAL. We was at the PAL all the time doing what we gotta do. Like, so it's definitely something that will help shape, open, and like change the perspectives of the youth in Baltimore for sure, to see themselves as more than just what we see in the city, but as what we can see in the world, honestly. So
No, and I definitely appreciate you. You had definitely been supporting a lot from afar. And one of the other things I'm making a conscious effort to do is the collaboration piece. So finding other organizations that are like minded and want to do the same work because like I said, like we can't do everything, we can't be everything. I can't touch every kid, but if I can form a network of people that are all, geared towards the same thing, then we can have a larger impact, and that can be the same for entrepreneurism. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're like, you don't always have to look at other companies as competition. There are some, avenues of collaboration that can help both of you. For me, when it comes to leader breeders or anything I'm doing, I'm very like clear on what my values are and what I will and will not be a part of. So when people reach out to collab, if it doesn't check that list, and I'm sorry, I love you, but I can't do it. And that's the same for any business. Like it has to be a win-win, but understand that collaboration is sometimes a little bit better than competition. And when people see that, that also, changes the perception. Like, you know what? Like that's crazy that they did that collab. I would have never thought, but it looked good. It is representing both parties, so y'all both get an exposure to both people's network. And like I said, it's not always a bad thing to collaborate. I know a lot of people want to be the best this, the best that, but as the saying goes, sometimes we are stronger together. So for me, with the leader breeder space. We're looking to collab with many organizations. A lot of our programs are actually like just kind of like us being the connectors from the school to the program, and like because I don't know how to run a STEM program, but I'm a partner with the Ryan Institute because this is what they do, and we're going to provide this programming together. You know what I'm saying? So stuff like that. Like I said, don't just say yes to say yes. Like make sure it aligns with what you want to do, but if there are opportunities to collaborate, I think it's good because also you can learn from each other. So in the midst of y'all collaborating on this, y'all gonna ultimately talk and see that, like I said, we all go through the same things, but maybe they got through it a different way, or maybe they can tell you like, yo, like I tried this or tried that and it didn't work for me, but I did do this and it worked. And now you got another, opportunity to figure out how to, excel your business. So but yeah, I definitely appreciate you. I appreciate you having me. I love the space you're in regards to just, student athlete development. Like I said, all I'm focused on is youth development, but that extends from 6 years old to 26 years old. I still help women get overseas. I'm still, I always answer DMs, emails, like people reach out and, whatever advice I can give, whether it be in regards to basketball, being a student athlete, whatever I can do to support anyone, I'm always open to doing so. So, stuff like this is great. It allows me to kind of speak on some of the things I've been through. But like I said, I never not answer people that reach out because I've been through a lot. Like I'm the type of person I just try everything. So, that was another thing that contributed to some of the things I do because I'm also impatient. So even down to like highlight tapes, it was like I got tired of waiting for people to do them for me. So I had to teach myself and learn how to do it. You know what I mean? So I think, when it comes to being an entrepreneur or a CEO, like you gotta be proactive and just be hungry to learn.
definitely, definitely. And we definitely appreciate all your advice, understanding your motivations behind everything, the steps you took. understanding your fears, some of your doubts, your failures, your big moments, your aha moments, all that. But as we wrap up, we got a little section that we like to call rapid fire. And so in this section, I'll ask you a question and you just respond with the first thing that comes to your mind in regards to that. So if Leader Breeders was around when you were a kid, what do you think the biggest lesson you take away from your program would be?
Mentorship.
All right. This one might be a little tough for you. New York or Baltimore? And just know
Brooklyn. Brooklyn. Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. All right, Brooklyn or Baltimore?
Brooklyn. The real Brooklyn, not this little Brooklyn out here. Brooklyn, New York.
Oh no, I don't know nobody claim Brooklyn, Baltimore. Come on now.
Yeah, I saw a couple signs. I was like, eh.
I didn't even
But
know
yeah,
that.
Brooklyn, New York. I think the Brooklyn, Baltimore is like Cherry Hill in a sense, but yeah, Brooklyn, New York, easy. I still got my New York ID.
And you
They've been
still
trying to
got your
get me
New
to.
York accent. Uh-huh.
Yes. Fortunately, because I would have been mad if I got the Baltimore two and you and all that going on. But
Come on, don't
it's
do
cool.
it.
It's cool. It's still love, but it's Brooklyn forever.
We all right, and then the last one, coaching men's basketball or women's basketball.
I say men only because it's not expected or common.
Mm.
Um, a lot of times there aren't really many women on the side, so I will go with that. But I do enjoy both. I have no issues with women's basketball. Like I said, I still help a lot of college players and high school players and things of that nature. But only because of who I am, I like to do what hasn't been done.
Mm.
So I'll say men's basketball, coaching men's basketball.
All right. Well, thank you, Tiny, for participating in such a great conversation today. Before we wrap up with our listeners, how can people follow you for updates or reach out for any potential collaborations if you want to drop any of your handles or anything?
So Instagram is coach underscore TA9. It's the same on Twitter, but the O is a 0. That was just because I got blocked because when I used to play, like when I used to play overseas, I used to post my highlights and it always would have the music on there. So the copywritten stuff, they kind of like deleted my account when they started catching back up to. But yeah, so Coach TA9 on Instagram and Twitter. Twitter, the O is a number 0. And then anybody want to reach out, my email is tiny@tinyadams.com, which is very easy. But like I said, I answer all messages, emails, DMs. I have no problem helping if I can. So feel free to reach out. And let's talk.
Perfect. And to all of our Maryland Made student athletes, here are a few upcoming events for this week. Our podcast drop every Monday at 9 a.m. The first leadership groups meetings for this month of October, we have our SAC meeting Monday, October 16th at 7 p.m. It is a game night, so come ready to have some fun. And then we also have our Worldwide Terps meeting October 18th at 7 p.m. Tiny, thank you again for joining us, and we definitely appreciate having you on the call.
No problem. Thank you for having me. And I hope this helps any of your student athletes. And keep doing your thing. Proud to see you back, like I said, in this space where you're able to not only mentor but help guide them through this transition. So, for those that don't know, y'all definitely got a good person in y'all corner. So, whatever she say, make sure y'all do it.
I appreciate that. One more time for them. No, I appreciate it. I'm happy to be back too, though. But yeah, all right, my girl.